YouTube. Today we're going to be taking you through a rest day. So not very exciting, but I guess it's going to give me the chance to give you guys a bit more insight as to what my personal and business life works like. So rest day, I've done my morning cardio. I have to jump on a couple of client calls as I've recently onboarded a couple athletes. So one of them is doing the show here in Winnipeg in May. So we're just going to go through obviously everything that's, to prepare him. In terms of, what I do for work, I'm self-employed, I'm a coach. So I do lifestyle and competitors. I'm really looking to take on more competitive athletes as, it is my passion and it's what I'm more specialized in. So this is exciting, at least for me. But so, like I said, a couple new exciting things, at least for this, just making a lot of upgrades to the system. So I've recently moved away from stuff like Excel spreadsheets. Now, there is a time and a place for everything, and I think everyone's going to have their own preferences in terms of their systems, but with this new app that we've developed, it's really all in one. So it's very versatile, meaning if you're a client of DJ Fit, you don't have to go hunting for whether it's, PDFs or voice notes or anything like that. Everything is kind of all in one place, which is very nice. It's very versatile, and it's user-friendly for the most part. So with that aside, I'm going to jump on a couple of client calls, get that taken care of, and then we're going to meet you back here for meal one. What's up, bro? Awesome. All right, so let's get started. VDC. So today I'm just going to run you through obviously the entire container of the program. We're going to go through everything from, tracking to training to diet to supplementation and cardio protocol. So everything that has been posted has been customized to your schedule, your weaknesses, and obviously your preferences. Now, to start, I want to say let's dive into just a bit of the different programs that we have posted in here. So with the current timeline, we roughly have about 4-ish months to, get ready for the stage. And with your body composition, I do feel like, we're in a pretty good place. We're not going to have to pull, too hard or go too aggressively. Body composition seems to have held up through the majority of your off season, and this being your first show, I really just want to, like I said, get you comfortable, get you, eased into the process, and not rush anything. Kind of just take it, 24 hours and 1 week at a time. So let's begin. All right, time for meal numero uno. So just spent a good 90 minutes on a call with a client, just troubleshooting his onboarding. And we are starving because it is currently 11 o'clock and we have not gotten meal one in yet. So a bit of a late start to the day, but that's fine. Today's a rest day, so I'm not concerned too much with time constraints or schedule conflicts. I'm just trying to take today a bit easier and, like I said, get a bit more recovery or active recovery done. We got morning fasted cardio done, so at least that's over with. So the rest of my day is just really going to look at, content creation, getting pieces of educational content out for the business, restocking a couple things that I need for the diet, and maybe catching up on some rest and recovery because your boy's tired and I think I'm going to take a nap today. So we're going to crack on with meal one and see where the day takes us. Okay, so time for meal one. Need to make some more rice, boil some veggies. So for my meal plan right now, I have a pre-workout meal and a post-workout meal. Both are a bit more loaded in carbs, so obviously when it comes to, meal timing and where I place those meals, I do have, flexibility in how I can kind of move them around. So if I'm kind of training earlier on in the day, I will have obviously my pre-workout meal as meal one, go train, and then come back afterwards and have my post-workout and then crack on with my remaining 3 meals. But because today is a rest day, and I don't have to train, I can just kind of start my day off with whatever meal I see fit. And we're gonna do egg whites, cream of rice, and almond butter, just because I don't really feel like having chicken and rice right now, and we don't have the veggies or enough rice cooked. So we're gonna get that going for meal 2, but for now, meal 1 is gonna be egg whites, cream of rice, and peanut butter. So a bit of meal prep to do today. I tend to cook my food for the week, but little things, miscellaneous items, run out of stock easily. So you gotta boil veggies, make a bit more rice because I like to have my rice fresh. I don't like it to be like too hard when I eat it. So we're just about a rice. I don't think there's gonna be enough rice in here for meal 2. So yeah, we're just gonna meal prep a little bit, get what we need going, have meal 1, and then crack on with the rest of the day. So yeah, nothing too exciting. I don't know about you guys, but when I'm in prep, I really pay attention to the details. So like if I'm in the off season and I have 350, grams of egg whites on plan, but I pour 353, not a big deal. But when it comes to prep, I really do everything to the T, just because if you're in a deficit, obviously, in the moment, it might not seem like a very big deal to overshoot your calories by 1 or 2 grams. But as those accrue, especially throughout the week, so let's say you take, 3 grams over the course of 7 days, you're looking at like 21 grams, right? So details matter. That's the thing that's going to differentiate, your placing on stage is definitely going to be a reflection of your daily habits. And if your daily habits are flexible or not rigid, then to a certain degree, so is your physique. So we try and be as detail oriented as possible and as accurate as possible when it comes to weighing out our food, because anything that gives us that extra 1% or that extra edge, we're going to chase. So there is no escaping the intensity and accuracy of this sport. I'm not even sure if you guys heard that, but my stomach is rumbling. So that's 80 grams of cream of rice. I'm currently doing the Applied Nutrition golden syrup, which is like a maple pancake-ish type flavor. It's quite good. I kind of alternate between Elevate and Applied Nutrition just because they kind of have different textures, and depending on where I am in prep and with my appetite levels, things just kind of get a little bit boring sometimes or redundant. So I like to kind of mix things up a little bit. The Applied Nutrition cream of rice is a bit like softer. It's a bit less grainy. So when you mix it up, it's almost like, I don't know how to say this, almost like a sludge, as opposed to the Elevate, which is a bit more of like hot cereal. It's like grainy, it has a grit to it or a texture to it. So flavor profiles on them are very similar. I feel like the Elevate stuff is a bit sweeter. So as I get deeper into prep, I might lean towards that just for the flavor and the sweetness aspect. But being 18 weeks out and appetite levels still being pretty stable, I'm not really too particular right now. Some of them obviously are a bit more expensive than others, or have more servings than others. But this one I think is 33 servings, so for like 24 bucks, it's, fairly reasonable. When it comes to the Elevate, I think it's like 25 servings for like 29, 30 bucks-ish. So especially with the amount of cream of rice that I eat right now, being one meal, but it's 80 grams, you just kind of rip through that bag or container a bit quicker. So yeah, just allocating funds as appropriately as possible. But this is meal one. We are going to cook up the egg whites, wait for the water to boil, and then mix that into the cream of rice. Sprinkle some blueberries on top, add a dash of cinnamon, and then we also have peanut butter or almond butter that I like to drizzle on top of my egg whites, because if you know egg whites by themselves kind of taste like piss. Don't ask me how I know that. But yeah, meal one, really trying not to overcomplicate this too much. Gonna wait for this to cook up. Gonna put the asparagus down, boil that up for meal two. Get the rice maker going, cook our fresh rice for the day, and get on with it. I was gonna say a curse word there, but YouTube's gonna demonetize me, so we are freaking hungry. This week, training was pretty good. Really starting to feel the effects of the supplementation or PEDs kind of come into play. I had a health phase from September-ish to mid-December. So being mid-January, end of January now, I'm really starting to feel the effects of those compounds at work. This week in the gym alone, I made, a pretty decent performance increase in terms of my strength patterns. So hacks, I think last week I got 5 plates for 9. This week I got 5 plates for 11, which is a +2, which was kind of unexpected, but who's complaining? And then we also increased load on stuff like hip hinges. So I have, rack pulls, but I do them on the floor because I don't like the rack and how loud it is. So more like a 3/4 or half deadlift at about shin heights. And for like the last, I want to say 8 weeks, I've been not stuck, but only loading up 425 on the bar and doing that for, I think I took it from 8 to 10 reps. And this week we did 455 for 8 reps. So pretty decent increase in load whilst maintaining my rep range. And if I can get this to the point where I'm doing 455 for 10 or 12, I will be fairly happy. Pressing wise, my pressing has always been shit compared to the rest of my strength patterns relatively. Flat barbell bench press is something that I've always kind of, staying away from, just because I have a wonky shoulder from all, my hockey injuries and competitive contact sport days. But I've made some pretty decent increases in my pressing patterns in terms of like incline hammer press. I think this time around last year I was doing like 2.5 plates for 8 to 10. Now I'm pushing 3 plates for 8 to 10, sometimes 3 and a 10 or 3 and a 5er for like 7 to 8. So I was kind of mitigating a bit of a wonky shoulder through that health phase, just because, like I said, there's less compounds in, and you're just gonna feel less shitty in the gym. Everyone kind of knows when you take compounds, you feel a lot better in the gym, and recovery is a lot better. So now that that has kind of subsided a little bit, I feel like my training is, my training is getting better. So not much on the agenda for today, so we're just gonna have to make up in terms of dialogue, but no one, here we are. Your boy's hungry, your boy's tired. We've got a lot of work to do and not a lot of time left to do it.
All right, so that is meal one cooked up. We are going to get that down and then just crack on with some work. So I'm not going to show you guys me eating the meal because we just did a full day of eating. I don't feel like you guys care too much to see that, but we will be back in a little bit for just a bit of a work block update and meal two. So see you then.
All right, so I've just recorded me preparing meal two, yapping for about 20 minutes, eating meal two, and during that time, my battery died once. I recorded 2 takes with the microphone off. So, great start. But technical difficulties aside, I mean, without reiterating and re-explaining myself for the 100th time, meal two was 285 grams
of rice, 150 grams of chicken, and 100 grams of asparagus. So, like I said earlier, when it comes to my rest days and days that I'm not training or not in the gym, I have more flexibility to move my meals around, right? Because we're not necessarily taking into account nutrient partitioning, and we're not looking for, optimal insulin sensitivity windows within the day. I just have freedom to move around my meals a bit more. So I generally wake up, and if I'm training that day, I'll train, between 10 a.m. and 1 p.m. So I'll have meal one, which is my pre-workout meal, which consists of this exact amount of food, which was what I just described. So the chicken, the rice, the asparagus, and then post-workout, I would have the same meal, either take it with me to the gym or have it once I return. That one is the same food, so chicken and rice minus the asparagus, just because we don't need fiber like that post-workout. We're just trying to optimize the glucose disposal. So a bit more rice on that meal. It's like 350, which is going to be my fourth or fifth meal today, as opposed to my second meal. And then I would usually crack on with my egg white and cream of rice meal, and then my tilapia, sweet potato, broccoli, rice cake meal, and then before bed, which is pretty much the only meal that doesn't move around a whole lot. I pretty much keep that one fairly consistent across the board, just because there's higher fats amounts and it's a bit more satiating and sweet. So I like to have that before bed to keep me nice and full while I sleep, so that I'm not waking up hungry. But yeah, today it was a little bit different, just because, like I said, it's a bit of an off day, it's a rest day. So woke up, did my cardio, did my client work, did my client calls. Took me a bit later into the morning than I had anticipated, just due to the call kind of running overboard. I do invest a lot of time in my clients, so it is what it is, but I'm grateful for obviously the opportunity to do the kind of work that I do these days. And being self-employed is just one of those things where it's like, you're gonna have to do a lot of work when you don't feel like it, whether it's the weekend, whether it's late at night, whether it's earlier in the morning, and you're gonna have to sacrifice things around your schedule to ensure that the people that you're guiding are not confused, they're understanding what they need to do, and you're just kind of helping them, like I said, troubleshoot any issues that are occurring or coming up. So today, woke up, did cardio, did my work, had meal one, which today I did my egg white and cream of rice meal. Did that, got back to work for a little bit, just did some more programming for another client, set up all my calls for tomorrow, which we're Saturday today, so tomorrow's Sunday. For the most part, that's when the majority of my clients submit their check-ins, and I jump on a call with them and review for the week ahead. So Sunday is pretty much booked throughout the day, and then I have a one-on-one tomorrow with a client. So tomorrow's going to be a bit of a busy day. I have calls in the morning, one-on-one in the afternoon, and then some more calls in the evening. And I still have to get mountain training in at some point throughout the day, which I don't like to train too late, but it might just have to be the case tomorrow. So finished meal two, worked, showered, got up here, ate meal two, spent 45 minutes, whatever, yapping to the camera with no microphone. So yeah, we're gonna carry on with the day. Meal three is probably gonna consist of the same food, which is technically or usually my post-workout meal. Like I said, this one's just a bit higher in rice quantities. So as opposed to 285 grams, we have 321. Like I said, not partitioning nutrients post-workout. Today's a rest day, so I can kind of just have it whenever. So when I get meal three down afterwards, we'll take you guys along for that. And then we're gonna do probably some cardio, because I have my evening steps that I have to get in. I have roughly about 10,000 steps to get in a day. So on a day like today where my day-to-day activities lower, you just have to spend a bit more time, hitting that step count. So we're gonna do that later this evening. It's only about 3 o'clock, so we don't wanna jump into that prematurely. I have a fair decent amount of editing left. And then we got a posing session, I guess, after cardio. So I usually do between 3 to 5 rounds daily. I try and be as consistent as I can with it. My non-negotiables really that I have on my program, or my daily checklist that I really try and check off. looks like, sorry, off the top of my head, it's a little hard to remember all of them, but I'm just waiting for this to load. It is my high carb days, so I'm tracking that on a week-to-week basis within my dashboard, my 30 minutes of cardio, my mobility, my posing practice, my injections, my 10K steps, and my vacuum practice. So for the most part, I've been slacking a little bit this week with my vacuum practice and my mobility, so we're gonna get a bit of mobility work done, do some posing, my vacuums, all that we're gonna do post steps or post evening steps. So for the most part, everything else, is accounted for and tracked until now. I just kind of have to catch up a little bit on some of my non-negotiables. So that's what rest days are for. They're for doing the shit that you don't have time for throughout the rest of the week. And this week has been a bit of a busy week, honestly, just with content creation, onboarding new clients, programming. And it is Saturday and we are working. We're working Sunday, we work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. All the benefits of being self-employed is you don't really get a break or a scheduled day off, especially with my own bodybuilding endeavors in there. It's very rare that I have a day where I can just hey, kind of like fuck off to the lake or go enjoy time out with friends or family. Obviously there's exceptions where I do the best of my ability to show up, especially around holidays and important events in regards to family, but for the most part, my schedule is pretty packed, and from week to week basis, I just try to improve. So all these things that I'm doing on a day-to-day basis, as much as I can do them and complete them, there's a difference between accomplishing something and improving at something. And I really, really try and highlight that, especially when I'm reflecting at the end of the week, whether I'm journaling or just mentally, checking in with myself. I try and really, really exploit any gaps within the week that, like in my head, if I'm thinking, okay, if I did this, could I have done it better if X, Y, or Z happened, or if I moved this around? And I really just try and be honest with myself in regards to the way that I'm approaching things. And a very, very big, pivotal mindset shift that I have had in the last year or so is the way that you do things is the way that you do everything, right? So if you're gonna have the tendency to slack off, whether it's at work, within your training, within your nutrition, it's gonna kind of bleed into other aspects of your life. So, for example, let's say you wake up, you sleep in, you kind of slack off, you skip your steps, you're probably not gonna have the most productive day, not in your work, not in your career, and you're probably not gonna have the best session in the gym. So I really try and manage and optimize all of my variables. That way I can ensure at the end of the day, when my head hits that pillow, that I have done everything within my ability and within my power to get the most out of each day, right? Get the most out of my growth, out of my progress, mentally, physically, financially. I feel like it's a good mindset for most entrepreneurs to take on, as you kind of have to be your own worst critic in that sense. As let's be real, like when you start something, especially when it's something that the majority of people aren't doing, most people aren't just going to support you off the hop. You do have to kind of prove yourself, prove your worth, and hold yourself to a higher standard that the majority of people just don't necessarily I want to say not have the luxury, but have the time to think about. So I've even had like a couple of cases in my life where it's like, okay, whether I unknowingly or not inspired another individual to, chase their dreams, leave the 9 to 5, whatever the case may be. It's all a reflection of my daily habits. And as much as when I'm, going about my thing and doing my thing, that's not on the forefront of things, it does reflect within, like I said, your communication, and just how you behave or interact with others. So I really try and uphold that standard within myself, not only for myself, but for those around me. For the most part, my circle is a bit smaller besides my client base. And, there's always eyes on you, whether people are voicing it or not, or supporting it or not, people watch, right? So how you present yourself does matter. And I think there's a very, very, big contribution to the way that you do things, and the way that people treat you, having a correlation. So, without getting long-winded again, as I've spent little bit too much time just troubleshooting these technical difficulties for the last hour. We're gonna crack on with some work, do some editing, get back here for meal 3, and then carry on with posing, cardio, etc. So thank you for bearing with me. And yeah, like I said, not too much of an exciting day today, a bit more of a realistic look in the day as an entrepreneur, bodybuilder on a rest day, and just someone who, you know, likes to inspire others and kind of try and just set the standard as to what self-development looks like. So, gonna carry on, and we'll see you in a bit. All right, so we have just finished up a little bit of editing for more of the educational pieces for DJ Fit's Instagram content. And now we're gonna crack on with meal number 3. So I know this isn't full day of eating, but as I said, on a rest day, this is the majority of what my day consists, is just, like I said, catching up on work, getting my meals in, doing my cardio, and some posing practice. So it's a little bit later on in the day now. It's just about 5 o'clock. So kind of, you know, good time to take a bit of a break. Even when it comes to, like I said, me and my work, it's something that's kind of around the clock, 7 days a week. So whatever type of, you know, little downtime that I do get, I really try and get the most out of. So going to take roughly maybe an hour break from work, get this food down. There's a couple little, you know, cleaning chores that I need to do around my place. I like to like vacuum on a week-to-week basis, you know, do some laundry, just, you know, humane stuff. So we are gonna crack on with this, got our chores done, and then if it's not too late into the evening and I have time, I might just run to the grocery store real quick and grab a couple things. I don't need much. I really just need, I think, water flavoring, some more rice cakes. But other than that, I think I'm good. I mean, diet sodas and stuff like that, I can kind of just grab miscellaneous items throughout the week as I need to, but for the most part, I got all my basics. For now, I get the majority of my produce from Costco. Obviously, they don't have everything that I do need, like rice cakes and, like I said, little miscellaneous items. So for that, I kind of just run to the Co-op that's about 30 seconds down the street from me and grab whatever I need to if it's urgent. But for the most part, I'm pretty much covering all my basics. I have my protein for the next at least couple days, rice, sweet potato, fruit. I restocked up on fruit earlier on this week. I have a couple more diet sodas. Obviously, I do like to incorporate that in the diet phase and even in the off season. I just like carbonation, so I like to get like limited flavor stuff that's not super available too often. So I'm really liking this maple cola. I'm going to see if they have any more of that. But other than that, I mean, yeah, pretty simple day, pretty chill day in the life. Yeah, so this is it. We'll take you along a bit later for some of the cardio and posing practice. Maybe give you guys a little bit of a physique update as to what I'm currently looking like. But yeah, pretty chill day. Like I said, rest day, so for me it's a day where I'm just kind of trying to, you know, take it easy, stay low key, and yeah, if I have the time, you know, might just throw on a movie and kick my feet back and chill the fuck out, because I don't have a whole lot of downtime, and tomorrow being Sunday, it's a bit of a busier day for me and my schedule. So yeah, guess this is it for now. See y'all back for meal 5 and posing practice and cardio. So we'll see you in a bit. All right, so we got roughly about 25 minutes of cardio to get done to hit our steps. So gonna do some cardio, finish off with some mobility and some posing. So nothing really to it, just gotta do it. And we will see you guys after that, probably just for last meal of the day, meal 5, and just a cap on the night. So yeah, this is it.
So that is 3 rounds on all the mandatory poses for Classic Physique, my class, and I also did just 2 rounds of my individual 60-second presentation or routine. So, I mean, as bodybuilders, we put in all this work in the gym, in the kitchen, on the treadmill, and you want to be able to display your physique correctly and properly, and you know, give it the justice it deserves when it comes to the overall presentation and package. So practice your posing, even in the off season, even when you're a little bit thicker. So, I mean, do I currently like the way that I look physique wise? No, but I think it's one of those things where it's like you're always chasing progress, you're always chasing growth, right? So although I'm not currently happy with the current look, it's just because I'm comparing myself to, you know, what I looked like lean last show. But I know it's just part of the process, and I'm kind of excited to see what details we can bring out as we get leaner. So gonna go get the last meal ready, take a shower because I'm just a little bit sweaty, and then yeah, shut her down for the night because we got a busy day tomorrow. So, and we are back. So just finished up for the day in terms of work. Obviously we went through the posing, the cardio session, just the day-to-day stuff, but as I kind of said earlier, it's a rest day for me. So just, you know, taking off my boxes. I generally do work a bit later into the evening as well. Now, granted, I do have flexibility within my schedule, being self-employed, to kind of, you know, place things where I see fit and somewhat to my preference. If you were to ask me, like, hey, do you want to work every day, or, you know, do you want to be working later into the evening and early in the morning and kind of around the clock? It's like, no, but I have, you know, a couple goals that I have set out for myself, and as I mentioned earlier, when it comes to reaching your goals, you're not always going to be doing things that you feel like doing. And I think this is something that a lot of people don't understand when it comes to like other family members or friends. It's like, if you're doing all these things and don't even enjoy it while you're doing it, it's like, okay, big picture, I enjoy and I love what I do, but there's a lot of things and a lot of variables within the day that, if I'm just being honest, I just don't feel like doing or don't want to do. I do have a very, very large and deeply rooted passion for the sport of bodybuilding and for coaching in general, right? So I do love what I do, but do I love every single action that I take? No. And I think it's a very big component of growth in itself, is just doing the shit you don't feel like doing, right? I don't think any character has been developed in any individual without some type of struggle, right? And I've definitely been through my own fair share of struggles, but to look back, even just like to where I was a year ago, I never thought I'd be in the current position that I am today. So I just try and stay grateful. A good practice that I have been implementing for the last year or so is journaling, and I have journals that I kind of just jot my thoughts down on. If you look down here, I got like this folder of like, sorry, you can't see that, like 4 different journals, right? So each one kind of has its own category. So I try and journal daily, just reflection, goal setting, and doing what I can to keep myself accountable. But a really, really good one that I've liked to incorporate for the last year or so, the better part of a year, is I have this small little pocket journal, and it's kind of nice. It comes with a pen. I do gratitudes, so every day I kind of just jot down things that I'm grateful for, right? So I try and do at least 3. Sometimes I get 10, sometimes I get 12. Sometimes I just repeat myself a little bit or reiterate it with different terminology. But for the most part, it just reinforces to my nervous system that, you know, I'm happy to be where I'm at, and I'm on a mission to, you know, achieve the things that I have set out for myself, and upholding the expectation that the future version of myself would like to see, right? So I feel like everyone, you know, kind of has 2 identities, right? You have the identity that you see yourself as, right? And then you have the identity in which you are the optimized or higher self of you, or your improved version, let's just put it that way, right? Like your V2. And
this just, like I said, reinforces that paradigm and that mental identity aspect of yourself, where from a nervous system perspective, you're taking actions, little micro actions throughout the day to almost rewire your nervous system. This is a little bit more neuroscientific than it is, like I said, business related, but especially for someone like me that's an entrepreneur, I think there's a very large aspect of chasing growth where you're going to run into identity issues, right? Whether it's, like I said, kind of putting on a show for others, or fake it till you make it, or just not seeing the potential in yourself, right? So little micro practices like this, I feel, hold a lot of value, especially for someone who is chasing growth and who is trying to achieve things that to the majority of people just aren't appealing. So yeah, if that's something you guys think is valuable, then I would definitely recommend to start incorporating it. So we're gonna crack along with today's gratitudes, and then I think we're gonna wrap it or shut it down for the night. I've had my last meal. We just got to shower, take our supplements, and then hop in bed. So it's been a blast, and we'll catch you all in the next one. Peace.